one thing we sometimes don't talk about with some of these bigger streaming platforms is that, it's a different business model. It's not necessarily about making money back. It's about brand. They're building their brand, and when you're an established filmmaker, you are a brand that they want to partner with to help build their own brand. But with newer filmmakers, newer voices, you don't have a brand. You need to build that brand.
Hey, welcome to CC Talk, a podcast where we see and talk about life and its stories through games, books, songs, but mostly movies. Today's episode, we're going to look at the rights and wrongs of streaming platforms. Yeah, that place that you go to binge, or in most cases, cringe. Where the top 10 movies can include 365 Days and Bird Box, while movies made for the big screens are lost. Netflix started it, Disney Plus tried its luck, and now we have HBO Max with all of Warner Brothers' regrets. The pain is real, and our layers will be peeled. So, I think it's important to start that when we say Netflix, we don't specifically, not always mean Netflix itself, but they are a very good prime example of a streaming platform, yeah? They are easily the biggest, most influential, the most subscriptions, so obviously we're going to mention them more than any other platform. And I think to start, it would be great that Delton here shares with us his recent foray into Netflix films.
No. And I thoroughly regretted watching two of these movies so close to one another. So I saw two Netflix movies. The first one was The Last Days of American Crime, and the other one was, everyone knows about this one, 365 Days.
Man. Yeah, if you haven't, 365 Days was really popular during the quarantine period.
It was number one in Netflix.
Worldwide
for nearly a month.
We'll get to that soon. So how was it? I mean, you watched them? I didn't watch it because I didn't want to waste my time.
I'm just going to briefly start off with the first one. Okay, do you remember watching Taken 2 or Taken 3 with Liam Neeson?
I didn't. Because I didn't want to waste my time again. Taken 1, yes. Taken 2 and 3, no.
Right, so Taken 3, I think people would know that Liam Neeson jumps a fence and it took about
that's the one.
20 different cuts. Yeah, so Netflix basically gave a ton of money to this director.
Yeah.
And he decided, I'm going to make my magnum opus. So he made this movie about a group of bank robbers trying to have one last score right before the US government implants a Wi-Fi wave or something that stops anyone from performing any sort of crime. So that's the plot of The Last Days.
Sure, why not? Why not? I guess, why not?
Yeah, so that's the plot of The Last Days of America.
But how was it pulled off?
It was very bad. Very, very, very bad. It was boring. It was boring, it was badly acted, it was badly directed. I can't say the editing has improved, but not enough to save the movie. This is easily one of the worst films I've seen all year, and this has been a very bad year for movies, both in terms of quality and in terms of release.
I mean, just hearing you describe it is a bit of a painful thing.
None of the characters are likable, none of the story beats make sense, none of the characters, character development. Instead of zero, it goes the opposite direction. You hate these people.
Hey, if it's the director's intention.
But I cannot imagine other people spending 2.5 hours of this. This movie is 2.5 hours long. You think Taken 2 and 3 were bad, wait till you see 2.5 hours of this.
Is there a sequel plan?
Oh no, thankfully no. It's actually based off a graphic novel, which I haven't read. I heard by all accounts it's alright, it's not bad. Yeah. But the movie was not good. It did not make me want to read the graphic novel.
How about 365 Days?
That one, okay, whatever I just said about The Last Days of American Crime, I owe that movie an apology after watching 365 Days. Okay. This movie makes 50 Shades of Grey look like Eyes Wide Shut. That's how bad. I absolutely, in good faith, cannot recommend this movie to anyone at all because there is zero redeeming value. I'm not mentioning the plot, which makes no sense. I'm also mentioning I'm particularly highlighting the frankly disgusting treatment of women in the film. Very, very bad. I think this sets back strong female characters in movies back about 100 years.
I think shows like this is like we are devolving as a species.
Yeah, exactly. We're devolving. And you just mentioned in your last podcast, 50 Shades Darker, was like number one in Malaysia for that particular period, like 3 weeks, a month, right?
What Data is saying is that if you didn't know, during the first week of lockdown, the top 10 movies included 50 Shades. Well, all three of them lines. It's pretty crazy.
I'm not surprised it's just 3 of them.
Yeah. So the fact that maybe it's not Netflix who chose the top 10 recommended movies, but there has been cases that Netflix has pushed films like this, even though it's not good. So, for example, like 365 Days. So here's the problem with Netflix, right? We're not saying that it's a bad platform.
No, we're not.
Yeah, by all means, it's great that it's making films accessible to many, many people. It's really easy to get on it. It's a fair price to pay for what you can get.
That's on the consumer side.
Yeah.
Nothing against the people behind Netflix.
Yeah.
I think they're doing a bang-up job financially.
Yeah.
And to whoever decided to give complete creative control to the filmmakers, the directors who want to get their dream project fulfilled.
Yeah.
Props to you guys, man. Seriously, without you guys, we wouldn't have like Roma, we wouldn't have The Irishman.
Yeah. Marriage Story.
We wouldn't have Marriage Story. Yeah, Bamba. Exactly.
So what they do is great, giving these creators freedom. But at the same time, for better or for worse, this freedom, like with 365 Days and the other one that Dalton mentioned. I don't even bother.
I don't even want to say it.
That's the problem there. And they push these films, be it Roma or Irishman or 365 Days or 50 Shades of Darker. They just push anything they want to push. And when I mean push, what I mean is that they make it appear on their homepage. So when you log on to Netflix, you see like almost the whole screen will be taken up by this film that they recommend. And because it's a Netflix original content, they created it, they will push it no matter what you watch. So like my wife, she watches Korean dramas on Netflix, mainly that. And then if I come in to use it, sometimes I watch things like The Toys That Made Us and some documentaries here and there. But somehow, a movie like 365 Days gets recommended to us on our main page with a 95% under his name. And if you didn't know, that 95% is not the Rotten Tomatoes score. They don't state it, but they don't even explain it. But if you actually take the time to figure out what this 95% means, it actually means that it's matched for you. So the algorithm is trying to tell you that, hey, this movie is suitable for you. But how and why when I don't even watch this? I don't get it. I'm not one for 50 Shades and that kind of show.
You do realize though that if you click on 365 days or if you start playing the movie, the algorithm will be affected.
Yes. Yeah, so that's what I did. I just for the heck of it, if I really don't want to do an episode on 365 days. If you want, just go to YouTube or just Google it and check out the reviews, and you understand why we despise this movie, right? It's not just a bad movie. The messages in there are bad. Like what Dalton said, it paints a really bad image of women. Not just women, just as people as
human
a whole.
Beings
human beings as a whole.
It's a fundamentally corrupt film. I cannot endorse it in any way, shape or form.
Yes. Everything is objectified, everything is about sex. It's just crazy. So anyway, I just clicked on it just to see like the first 10 minutes of it, like, at least if it's a Disney short movie or not. And the next thing I know, when I go to my search list on Netflix, a whole load of I don't know what they call it, semi-porn films or what.
Erotic.
Yeah.
Erotic films.
Everything, they're not being coy about it. The preview pictures are like half nude women with half nude men, and they are in suggestive positions. Oh my god, just by watching like 5 minutes of the movie and my whole search list goes crazy. And I don't understand as a consumer, right? I'm not conservative at all, but to see all that preview pictures and the content that Netflix has, and they actually push it, I can't brain it because Netflix has such a big reach to people. They have millions of subscribers.
Right.
And to know that this kind of content is being pushed, not just being shown, it's being pushed, and there's a huge difference there. To the people, it's just crazy because I can't see how it's going to be good for society. I don't get it.
Well, on one side, if you do click on it, and especially if you are sharing a Netflix account with your family, you have a lot of explaining to do when wife or your mother or your father decides, hey, I'm bored, I want to see Netflix, and they see what's recommended to
And
you.
you see, this is the problem. There's another great movie that I watched on Netflix, which is Klaus, Klaus.
Oh, the animated
The
movie.
Christmas animated show is really good. But that movie was not recommended to me when I watch a several anime. I even watched Studio Ghibli on my Netflix account. But Klaus never appeared on my recommended list. Never appeared on my search list until I manually typed Klaus.
You had to go out of your way to search for it.
And it's a damn good show, like Pixar level animation in terms of story and animation. And after I watched that show, I didn't get any other animation recommendation. Why? But then when I watch 5 minutes of 365 days, I get a butt full of semi-porn content. I don't get it. And that's my problem with Netflix. Why do they push certain content? Why do they not push certain content? I just don't get it. When you have a really good show like Klaus, for example, they don't. But then when you have a good show like Roma or Irishman, which stands a chance to win an award, they push it because, well, yeah, it's good for the Netflix name if they win an award, right? And I love Netflix for its series. I think a streaming platform is perfect for series that weekly launch, the weekly episode that comes out every week. It's perfect for it.
Right.
But my problem here with Netflix is when it comes to movies. I think if you love the cinema like we both do, watching a movie on a TV screen in most home setups where it's just a normal TV with a normal stereo or mono speaker, it's horrible. You really take away a lot of the movie's magic. Yeah. Sorry for the rant, but oh man, like I said very early on, the layers will be peeled because it's horrible. As much as I appreciate and respect what Netflix does for making films and series accessible, but the amount of rubbish in there is also really high. And there's sometimes so much noise where indie filmmakers like Lulu Wang, which we quoted at the very beginning of the episodes, they don't get a chance because when Netflix decides to push 365 days and throw it all over the homepage and billboards, a smaller film by an indie filmmaker stands no chance to fight against it.
You could make the argument that they are actually, putting it as a marketing tactic, saying, hey, as the saying goes, unfortunately, sex sells.
Yeah.
But, again, so they decide, let's drum this up because they know people are going to be watching it no matter what.
Yeah.
Just like, 50 Shades, why is it number one here? And 365 days happens to be number one around the world, so they push all similar kinds of content related to that movie because they know people will click, they know people will watch because it sells.
Yeah.
Like same goes for those Oscar bait movies that you mentioned earlier.
Yep.
Especially during award season, they know that sells well, so they push it during that particular period.
But that's crazy, right? Because here is Netflix. They understand what sells, for better or for worse, again. And because of that, if you actually watch Netflix shows, you get a lot of sex in it. Sometimes unnecessary sex
I
scenes.
have to agree.
I mean, sometimes I understand some movies or shows when the characters fall in love and they want to use sex to show how much they love each another. That's fine, and it happens in real life. So hey, movies are like reflections of life, right? But when you watch Netflix shows, right, you and if you watch enough, you really realize that why is it even necessary? It's just showing sex just for the sake of sex, and not just sex. A lot of blood, or a lot of vulgarity. Really, you just watch any Netflix original and you will get these three almost 90% of the time.
Now that you mention it, right, it got me thinking because of the way, not global cinema as a whole, but in particular Hollywood, American cinema, like ever since the superhero movie reign, Spider-Man, Avengers, all that, American cinema has been said by some to actually be, they've become soft.
Yeah.
Mostly PG-13 blockbusters that mostly play safe. The R-rated stuff has to be comic related, or it has to be independent. You will not have like a major studio budget backing these movies up. These like middle budget R-rated mature films with big stars.
Yeah.
It rarely flies with major American studios today. So that's why when Netflix comes out, it's like, oh, the floodgates are open. We can do whatever the hell we want, and like you described, excessive sex, excessive violence, just for the sake of being excessive. Rarely does
just
it
to sell it.
Yeah,
That's
just to sell it.
just to
Rarely,
sell it.
rarely does it relate to the actual content theme of the title that they're playing, you know, be it a show, a movie, or a TV series. It's just like, look at how extreme we can go, you know, without any sort of consequence to the
Doesn't
film.
serve the story at
Exactly.
all. Yeah. They're just slapping it on because like, hey, maybe if we don't have a sex scene, people won't watch this show. But hey, if we have a steamy hot sex scene with 2 known actors and actresses, and then we put it in a preview picture, people will watch it. And if you think like I'm joking about this, I'm not, because if you just take the time to go and Google it, you can see that Netflix does it to market its films. It's crazy. And it's allowed to happen, and no one is, well, you can't stop them anyway. But that's the funny thing, right? You would think that at least in Malaysia, where censorship and, well, things are very sensitive, and when if you go to the cinemas, you know how poorly or badly things get censored.
Oh yeah, very.
But on Netflix, where it reaches almost every home in the country, at least in the urban areas, nothing is being done to censor it.
Yeah.
Sure, yes, the parents are there to filter for the children. You can say that like every other content out there, yes. But still, that it comes to a point where you have to really wonder or question what kind of content is being pushed to the younger audience who do not know how to filter themselves. Maybe not children, but maybe like teenagers. You don't have to censor, but it's just like everything in life, right? Sometimes when you're at a certain age and you get exposed to certain things, you don't know how to process it yourself. And let's say if you go online to Netflix, 10 movies up there has like a semi-naked dude or girl, and they're all in sexual positions. You would think that's normal, and that's normalizing things that shouldn't be normalized. Especially if you get a movie like 365 Days that endorses rape culture.
Oh boy.
And it's number one, whether really it is number one or not, and for Netflix to push it there, I mean, it has to really be questioned. I can't not question it. You can say that, yeah, it's just number one, everyone watches it. But if that's the case, then if everyone kills other people, then hey, everyone's killing everyone. It's normal. It's fine. So I can't take it as something to be normalized.
Again, when you say people are killing everyone and it's fine, it's a side effect of the American film sensibilities. Like, oh, sex is a big no-no in American cinema, even before the superhero boom came. But violence is fine. It's PG-13 rated. But when you take into account everything as a whole, I mean, it's the parents' responsibility to know what their kids are watching and what age that they're okay with it. And, you know, rated R in America means, you know, like under 17 needs parental guidance to watch it. It does not mean, no children under 17 can be allowed to see this film, you know. So again, the responsibility is towards the adult guardians of that children who are watching the show. Is it my responsibility to let them watch the show? As long as I'm with them, you know, that's what being good parenting is, to make sure what movie your child will be influenced by. And if you know that your child's okay with it, probably mentally strong enough to handle it, then it shouldn't be an issue.
And I think, okay, to be fair, if that, I'm really sure someone out there say, hey, you're not parents, how will you know? Right? Doesn't matter, because let's say if my younger sibling is going to watch it, and I feel like, oh my god, this is endorsing rape culture, I shouldn't let my younger sibling watch it. So you don't need to be a parent per se to know or think about this. You can just be a friend to a younger friend or younger sibling, and sometimes really you just have to wonder what's right or wrong to be watched by someone who doesn't know how to absorb and process on their own. Not saying everything needs to be censored or filtered, but there needs to be a line that
it's a thin line.
Yeah,
it's a very thin
line. And this is where Netflix, I feel, as being so influential and powerful, they should do some gatekeeping. Like every other news outlet. I mean, in a way, I can see Netflix as being a news outlet. Yeah, they're not sharing news and facts, but to a lot of people, movies are windows to the world. What they see in movies is what they learn, and the values that are taught is what they will pick up and apply in life. Personally, I'm like that. I actually learn quite a bit of life, what's wrong and right on movies.
Right.
So Netflix considering their reach, they hold the power to influence people. They really do. Especially they even share documentaries, right? So
Yeah.
so there will be a point where they should start gatekeeping a little bit. If not, at least put maybe a disclaimer or a warning up front what it is about. But hey, actually that doesn't work because, well, if you tell people not to watch it, they will want to watch it. So it doesn't work that way anyway. Oh my god, man. But okay, then let's say if you take away aside all this sex and violence, let's just talk about the quality of the movies. Okay, let's just take all that away because maybe we've gone on too much about censoring. Yeah. So one movie that I watched at the time I remember was Bird Box, the one that with Sandra Bullock. Yeah. The best way I can describe it is a poor, A Quiet Place.
If you think that's a bad way, you see The Silence, which is a
Yeah, I know. You told me. No, God.
You were saying.
Yeah, so before we can even step into hell, let's just step onto earth first. Yeah, so A Quiet Place is like heaven, and then Bird Box is earth. It's bad. And my problem here is that if you remember back when Bird Box was released, the posters were everywhere.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Not even posters, like billboards on the side of the highway.
Yeah. Anything that has the Netflix logo was probably accompanied with Sandra Bullock's face and the Bird Box title. So the hype was big. And because A Quiet Place came out, I think maybe half a year before that, and it was really successful, really good movie. So when everyone was craving for something similar, that kind of horror where it's not ghost horror but the thrill ride is there, and it's really smart, the concept of A Quiet Place. So Bird Box came out, and oh look, instead of you can't make noise, you can't see. Sure, why not? I mean, maybe seriously, why not? I can get along with that. But when you watch the movie, it wasn't executed well. Let's say if A Quiet Place had 9 out of 10 playing with the senses and the thrill, it was only a 2 out of 10 in Bird Box. The other 8, if you ask me what is it about, is just people in a house. The typical who do I not trust, who do I trust zombie scenario. Yeah, it's just the typical thing, nothing unique about it. So here's the problem. Bird Box is an average at best movie, but it was marketed and pushed as the best movie. So I don't know, as a consumer, I am so lost with this.
Here's the thing, A Quiet Place, still a better movie by the way, has Emily Blunt and her husband John Krasinski, right?
Yes.
I mean, they both are very good, talented stars. Bird Box has Sandra Bullock.
Yeah, which is more popular, more successful.
Sandra Bullock, A-lister, everybody knows her. Almost everybody would know her. So that's why you see her name plastered everywhere, because they know Sandra Bullock sells.
To a point where I dare say that more people actually know about Bird Box than they know about The Quiet Place. I'm not even kidding. Because why I say this is because running an indie cinema, at least in Malaysia, when I ask my customers, they actually know Bird Box more than they know A Quiet Place. Because A Quiet Place, when it came out, it wasn't marketed huge. It was marketed fairly average, and people talked about it and the word of mouth spread.
Right.
So unlike Bird Box, which was full on marketing hype, that's why it's actually so-called more known and more popular than A Quiet Place, even though A Quiet Place is the better movie.
Yeah.
And I'm not just saying this just because I'm trying to be smart about it. You just watch it and you know.
So when the customers come to your shop, when you recommend them Quiet Place, you tell them, oh, it's like Bird Box, but good.
Better.
No, but good.
But good. I think but good, not but better. Because by saying better, you will imply that Bird Box was actually worthwhile, which is not. It's really not worthwhile. Oh man, it's so confusing because as a consumer, there you have a movie, Bird Box, where everyone's talking about it. The posters and trailers and billboards everywhere. Sandra Bullock, a big name, is in there, and her movies are usually good. And then you have A Quiet Place, which is not everywhere, but really good. So this is where I feel that Netflix should come in as maybe some form of gatekeeper. And you know, I'm not saying not to show, just to play good movies. Sometimes you need to watch average movies, or sometimes bad movies can be enjoyable too, cult classics. Everyone loves a bad movie once in a while, but they push it like it's the best movie ever. And a good movie, A Quiet Place, which is also available on Netflix, isn't being pushed. So there comes that conundrum where Netflix should be encouraging quality films, not just films they made. That bias of them just pushing films they make is so strong. Again, I understand because they made the film, they of course want their films to be watched.
Yeah.
But then what happens to us if we only watch things that the companies want us to watch and they control what we watch? Then where do we go? I don't know.
Then we get more bird boxes.
Yeah, exactly. So that is perfect. That is actually really perfect because, well, the company will say, hey, look, a movie like A Quiet Place didn't only got like maybe 500,000 views, but a movie like Bird Box got 5 million views. And no one, I mean, if this goes on in the future and it's looked back, no one will take the effort to think about, no lah, it's because A Quiet Place didn't get a marketing and Bird Box got a market. No one will break it down because corporates will be corporates. They will just look at numbers and like, hey, look at the views. That's it. We need to make more Bird Box. And that is a big problem there.
You complain about Bird Box potential sequels.
Yeah,
365 Days has 2 more sequels on the way. Lord have mercy.
So this is where we put in a moment of silence. Oh my goodness, dude. I cannot. I mean, I have no answer to this, but I have so much questions and so much concerns about where this will be heading to. I can't see the end of the tunnel or the light at the end of the tunnel. Neither.
I think we just got into the tunnel.
Yeah.
You don't know where it ends.
It's really bad. And in a way, it's not okay. So I brought up the fact that companies will decide on numbers, and you will argue that yes, even studios have been doing it with movies that come out in cinemas. Can't deny it, it happens.
Right.
But here's the thing: when it comes out in the cinema can't push it to you as much as Netflix can push to its viewers. So this is why I said earlier, where Netflix has such a strong influence. In a way, kudos, full respect to Netflix for building such a strong reputation, to be able to influence people.
And a strong audience.
Yeah, and a strong audience. But there again comes, I mean, it's just like being a superhero. With great power comes great responsibility.
Right.
And I feel that Netflix should take that and fully embrace that power that they have. I'm not saying they're bad, I really respect what they do, but they really should be more responsible with what they push to their audience. No problem having a whole library of raunchy, sex-based movies, no problem. But maybe only push it when it's good or it has some good values, or maybe a very intriguing, one-of-a-kind plot like Eyes Wide Shut. No problem. But when you push absolute rubbish, I'm sorry for calling 365 Days absolute rubbish, but it really is absolute rubbish. When it is rubbish, you have to recognize that it is and acknowledge it is rubbish.
I at least wanted it to be, you know, like trashy good, like the kind of trash that is actually enjoyable, but even I couldn't enjoy the film. But going back to what you said about, you know, people having that choice, that level of choice when they're at the cinema as opposed to, you know, Netflix pushing it here and there. Because in cinemas, you have to pay with your money, whether digital or you know, currency. You will still have to go through that final process of approving payment. Whereas for Netflix, all the titles are already available to you at your convenience. You could basically pick and play. You know, no consequence if you decide to stop and go for the other. Whereas for, you know, physical movie theaters or DVDs or whatever, you paid for it. You made your choice. You have to go with it to the end. Commitment, you know. Netflix doesn't have that. Netflix is like, hey, we have all these great selections. If you don't like it, you can always pause and watch another one of our titles without any consequence, because it's all included in this big membership package bundle, whatever. And that's why I probably would think some, not all, some audiences may be a bit spoiled for choice.
It is a problem because some movies are not easy to watch, or it's a slow burn where it only pays off at the very end. And I think we all know too well that these days the audiences have a very low attention span. So when movies that are slow or pays off at the very end or it's very heavy, they don't get, I don't want to say a fair chance, but that's the only word that comes to my head. They don't get a fair chance to prove itself to the audience. You know, Like what Dalton said, it's too easy for you as an audience to, hey, I'm getting bored, I'm just going to pause or fast forward.
You take it for granted.
Yeah, because some movies, it's just like life. You need to give it your time and your energy, and it will reward you at the end of it. I mean, a good one is supposed to. At least it's supposed to.
No, the bad ones will reward you too, but
Yeah.
just not the way that you intended.
So that's the problem with Netflix also. I mean, aside from all the things that we just talked about, the censorship, the recommendation, the way they push, Dalton brought up a really good point where we as an audience can take movies for granted too easily on Netflix. That's why when earlier I said for series, for episodes, sure, no problem. But for movies, which requires the audience to give the movie what the movie gives to the audience, a lot of things are not there. I'm at loss of words because it's such a big question to ask this. It's such a big problem which we currently do not have the answers for because we haven't reached the end of this story arc that we are in.
The Netflix takeover, thanks COVID.
Oh man.
Yeah, because as you all know, recently beloved theatres will now have to endure a longer period of time because a lot of big movies have been pushed to next year.
Yeah.
So it's unfortunate for me to say that we'll be facing a longer period of increased Netflix viewership.
Yeah.
Not just
Yep.
Netflix, Disney Plus is on the way.
Yep.
Apple TV is now on the horizon.
Yep.
So we're
HBO Max.
HBO Max, yes.
Woo,
You
Snyder
have some
Cut.
Snyder Cut. I mean,
Enthusiasm 99.
Snyder Cut. I'm waiting for the Ayer cut.
No, dude.
You know it's gonna happen, right?
Ah.
And the way he's posting it up on social media, it's gonna happen. I'm just waiting for the day he says yes. I say I'm not surprised.
No, I disagree with all these cuts and all. I mean, if you want to release a product, you release as a final product. I mean, just imagine if you buy an iPhone and it's missing the lock screen button. And then Apple tells you 6 months later, hey guys, we forgot about the lock screen. Come back to the shop and we'll give you a free lock button.
Gold chrome plated lock button.
That doesn't make sense. If you release a product, especially, okay, if you're a small company, maybe it can happen. But if you're a big, successful company, and you release a good product, you have to release it in completion, or else why do you even release it? Just take another few more months to complete it. Another rant for another episode.
I'm not going to defend the quality of Justice League and Suicide Squad, at least the theatrical versions that came out years ago. But I'm going to cut David Ayer and Zack Snyder some slack because news came out recently that they faced a lot of production issues, especially with the producers.
Yes.
Certain misconduct and how they handle things on set, not leading Ayer and Snyder to have final word.
Yeah.
So for me, like I actually am in favor of both cuts because I like to see a director's vision be fulfilled. I like to see a director get final cut on what he has to say. Because without that level of freedom, we wouldn't have Blade Runner the final cut. I mean, I'm not comparing Blade Runner to
No, I'm happy for the directors. I'm really happy for their vision to finally be fulfilled.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem here is that, in a way, the director and the studio are a team. They should have worked together to decide on this.
Correct, I agree with that.
And here is, especially for the Snyder Cut and Ayer's case, actually both of them, Warner Brothers were being assholes to them.
No, Warner Brothers. Certain producers, not the studio as a whole.
Well, but they're still under Warner Brothers' paycheck. And if Warner Brothers wanted to step in, they could have, but they didn't. And actually, if you read about it, Justice League was released because they had a bonus paycheck if they released it on time.
Wow.
So they screw quality for that bonus paycheck.
Well, they really screwed Zack Snyder.
Yeah.
Wow.
See, so and then they regretted it because it wasn't great, and they realized that fans demanded and really want the Snyder Cut, even if it might be bad or good, we do not know.
They had like nearly 2 years of campaigning for it.
And here is Warner Brothers like, hey, let's launch our new streaming platform with this movie that everybody wants. It's honestly a brilliant marketing move.
Yes.
But very questionable in so many ways. so many ways. At this point, I won't even be surprised if Disney will release like a recut of The Last Jedi.
No. Disney would release a recut of Artemis Fowl.
Oh,
let's not
yeah,
go
let's
that
not
one.
even go to.
That's another rabbit hole. But
Oh
yeah,
my God.
I would actually prefer it if they released it on Blu-ray.
Yeah.
The Snyder Cut.
Yeah,
Blu-ray.
why not?
Yeah,
But then they will argue that this is the new Blu-ray. Streaming is the new Blu-ray.
it's not the same.
They will argue
I
with you about
wholeheartedly
that.
disagree. It's not the same. You know, it's like, yes, again, back to my point of convenience. You know,
Yeah.
yes, it's at the touch of your fingertips. You know, you can just press and play. But at the same time, you know, I'd rather have a physical copy that I can put in at any time that I like and be able to, you know, watch a movie in the highest quality and sound available. And I'm not knocking Netflix sound and audio and visual quality. Both, they actually have done a damn good job.
Yeah, for
And
streaming.
For
yes.
streaming, yes, to making it sound as immersive as possible. But there's always going to be a little bit of, I know a lot of people would argue, no, we have very fast internet speeds, you know.
Yeah.
But I say no, I'd rather have complete total immersion in it. I like to actually see, feel, hold the movie that I'm
Yeah.
actually watching in front of my eyes. So, you know, Blu-rays is always going to be number one for me.
But here's the thing: if Netflix and all these streaming platforms are being run as a business, right? Well, I like to believe that they run it to provide good content instead of earning money. But at the end of the day, everyone needs to earn money. So here's the thing: Warner Brothers can tell you that, look, I only sell 1 million Blu-rays, but on streaming platforms, I can get 3 million viewers. So they will definitely want to keep this Snyder Cut, which
Right.
everybody is so eager for, and throw it into their streaming platform so that all the Netflix subscribers will give their streaming platform a chance.
Yeah.
And then Warner Brothers can even come in and say that, hey look, I'm trying to give this Snyder Cut as many eyeballs as possible. I'm actually helping it get more exposure. So, oh my god, this line is such a thin line.
They're giving themselves exposure. They're not necessarily the Snyder Cut.
Yeah, exactly. So like what Lulu once said, right? I really think she captured it perfectly. All these streaming platforms has a brand that they want to build, and whatever way they can use to build that brand, they will. A successful director, a big hyped about recut like this Snyder's Justice League, they will use it to push their streaming platform, because at the end of the day, that's what they want. That streaming platform subscription.
They just needed a big push,
Yeah.
and the Snyder Cut is that push.
Yes. And talking about numbers, this is something that I've always wondered, because before, well, at least before Disney and Warner Brothers started their own streaming platform, it was only Netflix, right? I mean, before this. And there was a lot of talk that Netflix can compete with studios like Disney and Warner Brothers, again, before they themselves had their own streaming platform. So this is why I believe that Netflix is treading a very fine road right now. I think if you give them maybe 5 years, I would say that Netflix has a very high possibility of dying. Why I say this is because, let's say there's only 100 people in the world, let's just say. And well, if you just take a good rough guess, I would say 70 out of the 100 people will subscribe to Netflix. There will probably be another 30 people out there who just can't be bothered about TV. So let's say these 7 out of 10 people have already subscribed to Netflix. And there's just no one else on earth to subscribe to Netflix. So Netflix has reached a cap, right? They don't release their movies in cinemas. So they reach a cap, they only can earn from these 7 people. Whereas a studio like Disney, who actually release their movies on cinemas, they can earn from that 7 people. And those 7 people, if they like the movie enough, they might even convince the 3 people who can't be bothered with watch a movie to watch the movie. And if all of them like the movie enough, they will pay again a ticket fee to rewatch the movie again in the cinema. And then if they have their own streaming platforms like they do now, people might even pay again to the streaming platforms to rewatch those movies at home. So this is where Netflix has a problem with. I really was just thinking about this, because their users can watch their movies as many times as they want on just one account. And we all know that we share accounts more than one. Yeah. So when we do that, Netflix are losing eyeballs and subscription fees. So Netflix has a very limited income compared to the bigger studios. And from what I understand, Netflix has taken the effort to start producing their own films in the last few years, their own production. The thing is, they don't have a production house, if I'm not mistaken. And even though if they do, there's no way in hell that they can compete with Disney's production team. No way. because they have been doing this for years. They have the resources, they have all the third party teams, the CGI teams, the makeup crew, whatever you need, they have it. Whereas Netflix don't. So this is where I can't see how Netflix is gonna go. Like, it's a marathon stretch, right? Before this, it was a sprint, and Netflix was killing it. But if you go on a marathon, I can't see how Netflix will match Disney.
This isn't a marathon. This is a triathlon.
Yeah, I can't imagine. Because actually, yeah, that's a perfect example, right? Because Netflix is good at sprinting.
Yeah.
But when you need to swim,
You need to climb. You need to jump hurdles.
which Netflix does not have the resource to do,
Yeah.
whereas Disney and Warner Bros has been doing it forever. How will Netflix compete? I can't imagine.
Because like you raise a very good point with how Netflix does not have like its own production house.
Yeah.
Like look at Disney and Disney Plus.
Yeah.
With the exception of Artemis Fowl, nearly every other Disney Plus movie has been quite well received.
Yeah.
Because the filmmakers approached these titles as if they were actual stories.
Yeah.
They had a full production team behind them, for years, veterans, decades worth of experience. Netflix, I'm not gonna knock on them,
Yeah.
but they do. Some of them do film it as if they're making a movie, but they again, sometimes they lose control of themselves. They basically overindulge
Yeah.
in excessive.
Yeah.
So again, you lose control. You don't have restraint. And Disney, Warner Brothers, what makes them watchable? Because they have quality control.
Yeah.
Netflix, I can assume, but cannot confirm
Yeah.
that they do not have a person in charge of quality control, or like what you said, gatekeeping.
Really?
Yeah.
It's really sad. If that is the case, right, I'm honestly sad. Not even angry, just sad. Why not? Even Astro has someone to curate.
like in terms of content, like in terms of violence and sex, they probably would not have any quality control. But let's say in terms of the film as a whole,
Yeah.
like the narrative,
Yeah.
I don't think they have it for that. I think they have it for the filmmaking quality, but not for the narrative.
If that's the case, that means that Netflix is run by, again, we just assume there's no confirmation.
Yes.
They are being run as a business purely to make money, not art driven, but economically driven. And that's the problem, right? Because they're going to create movies that sell, not good movies.
Like the reason movies like Roma
Mm.
and The Irishman and The Ballad of Buster Scruggs, all Netflix
Yeah.
originals, reasons they were good was not because of quality control, but because they actually had good filmmakers
Yeah.
who were their own quality control.
Yeah.
Veterans, Coen brothers, Scorsese,
Yeah.
they knew what they were doing. So obviously they don't need quality control
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah.
But say for movies like Bright, again,
Oh,
last one I
Bright.
mentioned, yeah, Bright.
There's another one. As a sci-fi fan, that movie was no, just no. So much no.
All lives don't matter.
That silence.
That silence.
Yeah. Not that silence.
Not the
But yeah,
silence.
go on.
Again, another thing. He mentioned A Quiet Place and Bird Box. Netflix made a rip-off of Bird Box called The Silence, which is completely horrible movie. Please do not watch it. Apparently, you'll see some of the worst acting ever by a guy who just fell down a cliff in a car.
Just go YouTube it lah.
Yeah,
just go YouTube
yeah,
it lah.
don't
Some
watch.
things you don't need us to tell you. Just go and Google it and you.
I was laughing in that scene. That was so funny. It wasn't meant to be funny at all, but it was so funny. But yeah, again, like I said, no quality control. And that movie just now I mentioned, The Silence, that director made Annabelle 1 and Mortal Kombat Annihilation. So again, no.
How did he even? How many filmmakers out there are struggling to even get their script approved or funded, and yet these people are getting their movies funded? It does not compute with me.
No restrictions, complete directorial vision. Whether it's from an auteur or from questionable.
Good and bad lah,
Yeah,
right?
good-
At the end of the
good
day,
and
it's
bad,
good and bad.
Yeah.
But that's why I'm saying I just really wish that Netflix just keep a little bit, do a little bit of quality control. I'm against total censorship. I don't like that.
Yeah, I'm
But
against it too.
I really believe that someone should curate a little bit, or at least just try to encourage the viewers to watch quality stuff, not the rubbish. I can't. And it's really sad, like just now you were saying that anyone gets a chance on Netflix, right?
Mhm.
Literally anyone. So much so that now in Southeast Asia, or at least in Malaysia, we've seen quite a few local movies get on Netflix. Right? It's a good thing.
It's a good thing because
yeah.
especially since these versions of Malaysian movies that are on Netflix, they're the uncut, uncensored versions that directors originally intended.
Yeah.
The ones we got in cinemas were quite censored.
Yeah. If you didn't know, a lot of, well, the good movies that came out in Malaysia, the local movies that came out recently, the good ones, a lot of them failed to be funded locally. So what the directors or the filmmakers, the team have to do is they have to go overseas to the international audience, get funded overseas, prove themselves there, win certain indie awards, then come back to Malaysia and show to the people here that, hey look, our movies are worth funding. And then only the local authorities will fund the local filmmakers.
I mean, not all of them though. I think some of them,
not all.
Some of them were, local successes, then they moved on to Netflix, like Munaflik. But I'm not sure whether it's the theatrical version or a little bit more, or a version which is a bit more violent.
Yeah, but I mean, it's really sad because when they go overseas and they come back, even though that the movie, their story has proved itself that it's a good story to tell, our local authorities will still tell them, hey, like for example, if you ever watch One Tui Jaga, at the very end of
Very
it,
good film.
yeah, it's a good film about police and gangsters, One Tui Jaga, even Fly By Night. At the end of the film, because in the Malaysian law, filmmaking law, the police has to be good. No matter what, the police cannot be bad.
Yeah.
So in One Tui Jaga, the original ending, if I get this right, I can't remember because it's been a while, the police were not proven good, they were proven corrupt.
Yeah.
But it was a success. It's almost like Infinite Affairs, And then when it come to Malaysia, the authorities demanded that they change the ending to say that the police were good in the end. Still a decent movie, but not the director's vision.
I wouldn't say that the ending, the theatrical ending here said the police was good at the end. It just says that the bad cops were just caught. That's it.
Yeah,
it's
but
just a little sentence.
still, yeah, that's the thing. It's so half-assed, right? It's just a sentence that says, "Oh, a good cop got caught." Sure, you can actually tell that the filmmakers were like, "Sure, if you need to add this line, we just add it at the very end of the movie."
I cannot imagine what the director Namlon. I cannot imagine what he was thinking when he probably put in that line there. In the Netflix version, there's no such line, so it's a lot more ambiguous and it makes.
But that's the whole point of the show, is the ambiguity of good and bad. But in Malaysia, no, we cannot have ambiguity.
Must have clear black and white lines. No such thing as ambiguity. We wouldn't want people to think now, would we? So I'm not knocking fingers, by the way.
Yeah. Anyway, so then again, so when these movies go onto Netflix, right? Yeah, we're like shouting, yeah, woo, our local movies on Netflix. But you just think about it, right? Have you ever seen them on your Netflix homepage screen? Never. Even though if you go to the recommended movies, the Asian films, you get K-dramas, you don't get the local movies.
Can I tell you a story?
Yeah.
Like, okay, my dad, he recently got into the Netflix groove.
Yeah.
I actually, I set up the Netflix for him on my own Blu-ray player back in Penang.
Yeah.
So he knows how to browse through Netflix now. So one day I was browsing with him. His favorite genre of movie, my guilty pleasure, the old school action.
Yeah.
So when we went to the action adventure tab,
Yeah.
to imagine my surprise when I saw Pascal there,
Cool.
next to Eraser and Executive Decision. But again, cool to see it ranked up with the grades. But again, like I mentioned earlier, I have to go out of my way to find it.
Yeah.
It's not pop in your face there.
So that's why some gatekeeping will come into play here. Let's say if I'm going to do the job for Netflix, more than happy to help you curate. But you see, this is the problem, right? You know that your audience is in Malaysia. So let's say if they are searching for an action movie, like what Dalton did, then of course I wouldn't put Pascal up there with the greats. I mean, as much as I love local movies, I want to support them, but you just can't now, okay? So what you can do is put a list of top 10 greatest action movie, and then right below that, put local movies, and then put it all there. Why not? It's just about curation. It's about arranging how you display certain films next to each another, and it really will affect people's choices.
Vira is also there, by the way.
Yeah.
Now, I think people will probably watch it because it has the bad guy from The Raid in it.
Yeah.
That's the biggest selling point.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, it's good to see more Malaysian films be put up in this platform, so the whole world can see. I'm actually quite happy with that, and the uncut versions.
Yes, the whole world can see, but there's so much noise on Netflix. The question is, will they even see?
So for every 1-2 Jagas, there's about 365 days circling.
And the thing is, Netflix will push 365 days.
Oh, good Lord.
So that's the problem here. I mean, I'm very happy that there is a platform where you can get more eyes. But how will a small local movie get more eyes when they have to compete with Sandra Bullock in a lousy movie?
True, I agree.
So that's where gatekeeping and curation should come into play to better recommend better movies to people. Not control but persuade or encourage better quality content. It's such a fine line to tread. There's no clear answers at the moment because nothing looks like it's being done.
Because people watch the same stuff every single time. Like, if not the same movie, then the same genre. And that's Netflix. They just see a pattern, and they look at that pattern and say, that's what we need to keep doing right now. And then they repeat. Whereas, cinemas, they have a season, fall. Sorry, not fall, now it's like summer. Summer movie season is always the big blockbusters. And then autumn would be the lull. So we get kind of crappy, but not really crappy movies. And then we get the start of all the Oscar award-winning movies. December, Christmas, holiday season, we get some big movies, like Lord of the Rings back then. And then, of course, let's not talk about January. January is the forbidden month. But it's a cycle. They have certain genres come out at certain times of the year. It fits with the period, at least if not with America, then with the rest of the world. Even Malaysia, they realize how big summer movie season can be in America, so they release their own big movies in July. No problem with that. It's a little healthy competition. Netflix and to some extent some of the streaming services, they don't do that. It's just a free for all. Everybody's releasing everything at one go, so it's like you don't know what to choose. There's like a horror movie, and then there's an action movie, and then there's a teen romantic drama. All at the same time, everything's all mixed up.
The noise is so much. So that's why the argument here is that these small movies, do they even get a chance even though they are on a platform that can reach millions? Right? Is Netflix going to market that small movie for them? I don't think so. Definitely no.
Not unless one of the stars suddenly hits it big.
They won't. They will not market like a Malaysian movie unless, like Dalton said, suddenly one of the actors is a big star name. Then maybe they will. But if not, they're just going to put it up. They're probably going to pay the filmmakers a few thousand or so. And that's about it. I mean, you get a platform that people can view it, but whether people will is another question to be asked there. My God.
But the thing is not just, let's not forget, we also have a lot of streaming services here in our homeground too, like iFlix and VU and Dim Sum. These, especially VU and iFlix, these two are on the rise, though I think iFlix is right now being mixed up in some sort of controversy regarding one of their movies. But again, they are starting to create their own original content. Not to say feature films yet, I think that's a big stretch, but their own series. So again, I think everybody's getting into the streaming game.
I think it's more of jumping on the bandwagon than anything.
Wow.
Really, because let's say if this local or Asian streaming platforms, right, they're going to charge you what, 5 ringgit a month? Because Netflix is charging 20?
30.
30?
I mean, I'm paying 40 a month.
Yeah. So okay, 40 a month. And then the Asian one, they definitely cannot charge as much as Netflix. And they're trying to produce their own content.
Right.
Netflix there earns USD, which has so much more value than the Asian dollars here. So let's say if a local studio I have this original series idea that I want to do, and Netflix heard about it. Then let's say the smaller iFlix or View has been working with them, and Netflix comes in and say hey look, I'm going to give you more money, and I give you a chance to reach more audience.
Oh my.
So you see, it's really tough. I'm not saying it's great to have more localized content and a short, but then again the audience here will rather pay for the bigger one. So it's a really tough spot I'm not against them, against like local streaming platforms, but I find it really, really tough. And iFlix was almost dying before this merger with this Chinese.
Tencent.
Yeah, they were really dying. They were bleeding money.
Yeah.
Yeah, they made some local content, original local content. No one watch it, and they were really bleeding. Look, they can't even pay the filmmakers money which they are owed.
The film in question is Daulat, by the way. It's a
Yeah.
political thriller, and apparently they have some issues with not paying the filmmakers license fees that they were owed.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Contracts were signed and everything, but hey, they signed $1 million deal for Tencent. The owners are getting it, but not the filmmakers who.
you just don't do that, man. Don't stiff over the filmmakers.
Yeah. I really feel that all this streaming. This is like a huge segue, but this feels like the beginning of apps, where every millionaire out there, yeah, because when apps started, it was a really cheap way to start something and earn big in like a short period of time. Because the startup cost was so little, just hire a team of coders, create a good app, and you can sell it for millions like a year later. So I really feel that streaming platforms is something like that, where the millionaires has something to play with. And well, streaming platform is in trend now. It's cool to say I own a streaming platform.
I wouldn't say trending as it is like the only way to see new movies, new content at the moment, because unfortunately this is the time period we're living in, the age of the corona. But I'm going to segue a little bit to what's going on in American cinemas. So I think you know AMC is being AMC is a giant American cinema chain for those who are not in America, and it's pretty much dying. So because no new movie has been playing there since.
They're not even allowed to run.
Yeah, they're not even allowed to run now,
Yeah.
because major states that have those cinemas have closed down in the US, and
Yeah.
the key markets in California and New York especially. So if those two are closed, then well, good luck to them, And it's unfortunate that most of the new movies have been postponed to next year, because what we're going to see is possibly a lot of these theatre chains are going to shut down.
Yeah.
If not shut down, then they'll probably be bought by independent cinema owners to showcase these studios' new films. But how many people can afford that?
Yep.
Because these were big cinema buildings. Like I've been to one of those right in Chicago. They're not cheap to maintain. So I don't know whether we will have another movie in the US at least that will break the $500 million barrier again after this. I mean, it's a very somber thought, but I'm not sure how this will affect big budget theatrical movies like Top Gun and James Bond down the line. For all these streaming movies, arguably there's a future there, at least if not permanent, like what Jovi said, could be it could be one of those app inventions, but it's going to be here for quite a while, at least until this whole coronavirus thing blows over.
Unfortunate. So yeah, where do we go? We do not know. What answers do we have? We have no idea. But just really so much concerns and worries and questions that has to be raised. And
but at least a silver lining, and I'm going to mention the new Train to Busan movie, Peninsula.
Yeah.
Okay, first I did not like that movie. That movie is pretty bad, very bad compared to the first movie, if you want me to be very honest. However, it is a big success financially. I mean,
of course, there's nothing else to watch.
I mean, that's one way to put it.
And the name is huge, Train to Busan.
Train to Busan, because Train to Busan had a lot of goodwill from the first movie.
Yeah.
It was very good.
Yeah.
It still is very good.
Yeah.
Because like you said, people will go for the brand name. They will still see a movie with Train to Busan in the title.
Yeah.
Second part is they've been longing to see a new movie, a new blockbuster in the cinemas.
Yeah.
And the one I went to, at least even with the restrictions to sit one seat apart from one another, it was still pretty full.
People want to go to the cinema.
Yeah, and it was very late at night. It was a Friday night at 11 p.m.
Yeah.
So it still shows that people still want to go to the movies, and I'm happy that the interest is still there. Just unfortunately for most of the world, not right now.
Yeah. I think the allure of going to the cinemas is definitely still there. You can't beat the magic of the big screen, no matter what.
Yeah.
You just can't. And to some degree, some movies, the crowd reaction together with you just can't beat that sometimes. So yeah, that is the whole thing about Netflix that we thought about, and we really just wanted to. I think it's the right time to talk about it, especially since we spent so much time on Netflix during the whole lockdown. And instead of ending the episode just like that in the last one, there's actually something that I forgot to do the last time, which is to have one more thing for us to share. Whether it's books, movies, a new restaurant you discovered, or whatever it is. Just one extra thing that you want to add on to the show.
Okay. I think you better go first.
You need time to think about it. So for me, it would be The Handmaid's Tale. I watched it during MCO, and it is amazing. If you want to talk about streaming platform pushing good content, then I would say Hulu, Hulu is I think British streaming platform, right? It's a British streaming platform, and they have a series called The Handmaid's Tale. It's based on a book, Margaret Atwood's book. Is really very good. If you think Game of Thrones is good, Handmaid's Tale is at least 2 times better. Especially if you take in that it talks about society, that if you look at America right now with what's happening, that movie talks about so much things that we should be talking but we don't dare to talk about. Politics, sexism, racism, everything, and that series is great. Elizabeth Moss is also amazing. Her acting in there, I think when you watch Handmaid's Tale, you'll be convinced that she will win an Oscar in the next few years. It won't take her long at the rate that she's going.
Right.
Yeah, I rank Handmaid's Tale on the same level or better than Breaking Bad.
Wow.
Yeah, not kidding.
It's a high call.
Yeah, it's not easy to watch because certain topics that they talk about. I mean, Breaking Bad is full-on drama, right? It's exciting. Whereas Handmaid's Tale, it provokes you because it makes you think what is right and wrong in this world in a very smart and exciting way, because it's a show. In the end of the day, it has to be dramatic. So it raises questions that really makes you think, because it sends out the right message. It has good entertainment for a show. Handmaid's Tale, I think that is something that everyone should watch. But again, you see, marketing is such a big thing. No one's really talking about it, especially in Malaysia. I think only like 1 out of 10 Malaysians has ever even heard about it, not watched it. So again, marketing is such a big thing in all these TV shows and stuff. Because word of mouth can only get you so far. Yeah, that's my one thing to share at the end of the episode.
I'm going to pick an anime which really changed the way I think about Japanese animation in particular.
Yeah.
Like, okay, before this, I would think when people talk Japanese anime to me, I'm thinking, Digimon, Pokemon, Dragon Ball, or at least Samurai X. But Samurai X is still good, by the way.
It is.
But after I saw this movie, my perception of anime completely changed.
Give me the title.
So
I'm waiting for you to say the title.
It's a science fiction story. It's actually a remake of a silent film from Germany.
Okay.
It shares the same name, Metropolis.
Ah.
So that movie it wasn't a direct remake. It was actually an adaptation of the graphic novel, the manga, by Osamu Tezuka, considered to be the godfather of manga in Japan. And he took inspiration from Metropolis, but not 100% the actual story. Whereas this movie, the 2001 anime film, actually has a lot more in common with the German movie than the comic. So you see a little bit of a combination of both. Now the screenplay was written by the same guy who did Akira. Katsuhiro Otomo.
Yeah.
So you get all these like very childlike drawings, but the story and the action and the animation is so fluid and full of technobabble, high-tech visions and all that, and you're just left stunned. I was left stunned watching it. I was like, wow, this is a complete vision. I feel like people actually lived and breathed in this world. There's a plot, there's a conspiracy, there's youthful characters, the loss of innocence is all covered here. And also, the ending of this movie is probably one of my favorite endings to any movie. Like the final 10 minutes is just sheer cinema, and even until now I still can't help but think of the wow factor that it left me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Considering how many movies that you watch or how many
Yeah.
shows that you watch, that's really high
Right.
praise.
Because when the ending came up, people think of like anime, like okay, some animes have great endings, like like Neon Genesis Evangelion or Princess Mononoke.
Yeah.
Even people will think, oh, the epic anime series movie like Digimon or Dragon Ball. I wasn't comparing it to that. I was comparing it to Kubrick's Doctor Strangelove.
Wow.
So I'm not spoiling anything.
Wow.
That ending has that level of power for me.
Metropolis.
Metropolis, yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I would say not many people have seen it because
No, I haven't even heard about it.
yeah, it's pretty niche to say the least. But I started watching that after a certain director put his blurb out there saying that this is a must see. Images will stay from this movie will stay with you forever. I will
Cool.
remember his quote. That director
Cool.
is James Cameron.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Probably see some influences in Avatar sequel.
right. James Cameron, he himself is an anime fan. So yeah, he no surprise if it's coming from him.
He has
and
really good concepts sometimes.
yeah. But yeah, Metropolis, man, amazing movie. One of the best anime movies I've ever seen. Completely.
I think at this rate, you don't even need to say anime movies. Just say
movie.
best
Yeah,
movies.
one of the best
Just
animated films, period,
Yeah.
that I've ever seen.
So okay, that is another episode done. I hope the next time you really have the mic for real. Thank you for listening again, and yeah, we're signing off like that.
Ciao.